Welcome to the 2022 Test Security and Ethics Training video. This year, we do not have Bob. He will not be available for this. So I will be doing the hosting throughout the whole presentation. So anybody that's well aware of me and my presentations is that they're relatively short. So I try to get to the point and stick with it. Hopefully we can do that again today. So let's go ahead and get started on this. And we will get going here. Whoops, went one too far. Okay, here we go. As a building test coordinator, these are the primary points that you're going to want to focus on, and that's what we'll try to focus on throughout this presentation. As usual, if you ever have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to contact me or Bob, and we will try to get your question answered as quickly as possible. Okay, in general, in preparation for the general assessments, there are practice tests that are automatically built into the KITE system. They are by grade band. So there will be an elementary, a middle school, and a high school. What you're looking at right now is the username and the password. This is the username, this is the password for each grade band. Feel free to step the class through it and just answer all the questions as a group, especially at third grade. Get used to the tools and how the system operates, and I think you'll be okay. We also have the mini tests. These are the ones that either you can go out there and build as a test coordinator, or the teachers can go ahead and build them themselves. These are based solely on the different standards that will be on the main test. So feel free to use these as a teaching tool. Go through them in class if you want to, test to see where you're at, but it's completely up to you. Of course, you don't have to use them at all if you don't want to. Test windows. We have KELPA that's coming up on the 31st. That'll be the first one. Right now, all the kids should be loaded into the educator portal, or KITE. I'll use those two terms interchangeably. I did load the KELPA kids into your PNP documents. So those are available to you. They're out in your A&E folder on the Google Drive. If for some reason you don't have access to that or you can't find it, let me know, because there should be a folder out there that says PNP settings and KITE, I believe, and when you pop it open, you'll see a Google sheet that will have the school name followed by 2022 PNP settings. So you should be good to go there. DLM starts on the 7th. Most of you won't have to worry about that because the SPED department takes care of that. And that's kind of a specialized testing routine. So it's pretty much hands off for the building test coordinators. On the general starts on the 21st of March. You may start science on the 21st if you want to. Math and ELA, you need to hold off until April 1st, and that goes for all schools. And if you want any kind of variance on that, you will need to talk directly to Dr. Anderson about that. History, government, social studies, that is something new this year. Elementary and middle school are done with it, I believe. And the high school history, government starts on the 18th, I believe. Test sessions, KELPA, this is, nothing here has really changed. There's 4 domains of variable length. You have listening, reading, speaking, and writing. DLM, that's something that the teachers themselves put together. Plus they will have a history government this year. I believe that there's 3 questions on their history government test. But it is online. It is not a part of the state standards right now, but it is something that they have thrown in there. On the general, you have your math, ELA, and science. That consists of 2 different sessions, stage 1, stage 2. They will vary in length. We do not set a time limit on those, so they can take as long as they want to. And we do have some kids that take a really long time. History, government, social studies, we don't really worry about because that's in the past right now, except for the high schools. Okay, for the KELPA window, this is for any child that's identified as an English learner. And this is irrelevant as to whether we provide services to them or not. The only kids that we really don't test are those that are on monitored status. Otherwise, it doesn't apply to the DLM kids. KELPA test, when you go in there as a building test coordinator, you're going to have to make sure that you're in the KELPA domain and make sure that your role is building test coordinator. It's for all grades. They need an integrated headset. So that's earphones with a microphone. And the EL department should be getting those out to the schools. If you have any kids that cannot test for whatever reason, I've got to have those codes in the system by March 11th. And all the scoring needs to be done by the 31st. Of course, the only human scoring there is speaking. I believe there's like 10 questions, and a handful of the writing questions need to be hand scored or human scored. Then about, I want to guess around 10% will have a second rater, so they'll have to be scored a second time. ELM, like I said, to a large extent is irrelevant to you as a building test coordinator and the teachers in general. SPED pretty much takes care of this on their own, so there's not too much to worry about. Okay, enrollment. For your annual measurable objectives, any student that is enrolled prior to March 20th of this year needs to be tested. Anybody that shows up after that date, you can test them if you want to. So the scores won't count. There'll be a participation only thing. If you have a new kid in there, at one of the lower ends of the band, then yes, you may want to test them just to baseline them. But if you have a 5th grader or an 8th grader or 11th grader that's new, it's kind of pointless. So I wouldn't waste my time if I were you. Okay, test tickets. This is something that I generate for the schools every year. Right now, I can't promise that I can get the KELPA tickets done. We're kind of short up here right now. So, but I will definitely have them done for the general assessment. So what you're looking at right now is an elementary test ticket. You'll see that this is for a 5th grader. So you will have 6 entries on here. Same username, same password for all the tests. Of course, grades 3 and 4 will only have ELA and math. And then once you get into the secondary, you'll have a separate ticket for each content area. So an eighth grader would actually have 3 tickets, one for ELA, one for math, and one for science. Okay, for your PNPs, or for your test tickets, in order for me to put these together, I need to have your PNPs completely done by March 14th. At that point, I will extract all those PNPs out of the educator portal, and that will be one of the files that I put together that make up those test tickets. We've already been through the rest of this, and we'll get to the daily access codes in a minute. Okay, daily access codes. Most of you are familiar with these. They're generally available about 3 o'clock the day before the test. So I will probably continue to send those out in an email every day. There will be a folder in your A&E folder, a subfolder, that will also have the access codes for each day. I would not, no, forget it. I don't want to get into that because I'll confuse too many people. Okay, so this is an example of how the access codes work. Be really, really careful of this. You do not want to start a student in stage 2 or part 2 of a test because of until you go in and check, make sure that they have no omitted items. So you can kind of go through this. Like I said, it's pretty self-explanatory. Headphones and earbuds. This is, whoops, went too far. This is required for the DLM students. We've been through the part about the integrated headset is required for the KELPA kids, and that is for the speaking piece. And we, in general, anybody can have headphones because the instructions are always available as a text-to-speech, and science is available as a text-to-speech, the entire thing, the whole test. So just make sure the kids do have them if they want them, or at least make them available to them. The one thing that we do ask is that if they don't have to have the headphones for a read aloud, that the other end of the headphones is not plugged into a jack. We don't want any foreign peripherals plugged into that computer. So no wireless mouse, no thumb drive of any kind, and no headphones plugged into the computer unless you're getting a text-to-speech. Okay, this has not changed any. We've been over this. The start date for it is April 1st. 2 sessions per content area. Everything is still the same. Okay, soft breaks. I feel like I probably should go over this a little bit more. Whenever you have a child or a student that gets done with a section, you need to make sure that you see that review in screen and that all those questions are answered. Because once you go from stage 1 and you start stage 2, any omitted items that you may have are considered wrong answers. There's no going back. So be very, very careful of that. In fact, I tell you what I'm going to do here. When you go into the educator portal, let's see here, maybe I can get it. And maybe not. Here we go. So when you go into the educator portal, you have an option to run an extract. So first of all, make sure you're in the right assessment program. Then you can go over here into reports, select data extracts. Well, that didn't work too good. Now then, did it? Ah, there we go. Okay. Over here on the left, you have a list of reports or extracts that you can run. What you want to do is you want to run this CAP Test Administration Monitoring Report. This is going to be your Bible for the most part. So just come over here, click on New File. Whatever intermediate window pops up, you click OK or Yes. Don't make any selections. As soon as it gets done running, you will get a little blue CSV that pops up here. And that tells you that the report is ready. Okay, so this one's ready. I already did this ahead of time to help speed things up a little bit. And so this is what you're going to end up with. Let me see if I can move myself out of the way here. You're going to have a report that looks like this. Student name and ID numbers will be here. So what you really need to do here is, let me get this out of the way again. I'll back this up a little bit, but you want to go up here and you want to select your filters. And over here where it says test status, which is right now, it's going to be column U. It's hard telling what it's going to be this year because they like to move things around. You want to select anything that is not started. So just uncheck that box, click OK. Come over here where it says special circumstance. All you want are the blanks. So all these others are the SC codes that I put in on these students. So all you care about are the blanks. Okay, so you got that much. Then you come over here to column AD. That is unanswered items. What you care about is anything that's not blank or that says 0. So as you can see right here, we have a bunch of kids that didn't answer questions. When they're not answered, they're wrong answers. So this child right here on lines 383, 384 did not answer 7 questions on stage 1. So there's 7 wrong answers already. On stage 2, they didn't answer 4 of them. So out of those 55 questions, there's already 11 wrong answers before it's ever graded. So you want to make sure that these are blank on stage 1 before you ever go to stage 2. Okay, so we're done with that. We don't really care to save it. I don't want that either. So we will go back to the PowerPoint and pick up where we left off at. Okay, for ELA, this is essentially the same as what we had just gone through for both tests. And we're checking for the omitted items. That's where we left off at. More ELA data, your newcomers, or I'm sorry, your recent arrivals that were formerly known as newcomers. Anybody that shows up after March 21st of last year does not have to take the ELA test. They'll pick up their information that they need off the KELPA for that. Okay, math. This is essentially the same data as what's on the ELA. We do have resource sheets that will be in your folder out there. They're available for grades 4 through 10. 3rd grade does not have one. You're only good on section 1. You'll have a list of manipulatives in your folder too. They have not changed from last year. Calculators. You cannot use a calculator unless you're in middle school or high school. So the question that I always get is, I have an elementary student and it says in their IEP that they get the use of a calculator. No, they do not get the use of a calculator on a state assessment. If anybody's got an issue with it, have them call me and we'll get this worked out. Okay. As I said, no calculator at the elementary level. There's a 4-function calculator that you can use in middle school. There's one provided in the system. If you do not use the one in the system, it's essentially a TI-30SX, I think, is what the calculator is. And in grade 10, you have a 4-function and a graphing calculator. The graphing calculator, I believe, is essentially a TI-84 or TI-84 plus. Now, those calculators are also provided within Kite itself. If you use a handheld calculator, you have got to fill out a calculator log, and it is very, very burdensome. And you have to be very exact as to clearing that calculator and making sure nobody leaves anything stored on it. It's not worth it. I strongly advise you to use the calculators that are provided within Kite, the student portal. Science, it's only for grades 5, 8, and 11. Like I said before, headphones are optional. It's 2 sessions, fixed form. I will say this about science because I get these questions every year. With science, expect there to be a performance task on about 30% of all science tests. Now, the performance task will be identified when the student has the test open on the question tab up at the top. There will either be a leaf or a flask. And so there should be 3 or 4 questions that are all tied together, and that is the performance task. The performance task items do not count against the student's score. This is something that KSDE has done for the past, 4 or 5 years. And I fully expect them to do it again. So don't be alarmed if you see that. History government, we've kind of been over this. If there's, for the high schools, if you have any questions whatsoever, contact Leslie Nelson. She has done an excellent job with this, put a lot of work into it. And she is the pro with that. ACT. Okay, so we've got the state ACT coming up on March 1st. I'll have to send in a set roster to KSDE and to ACT both on the 19th. Whatever you do, high schools, and include your counselors in this, be very, very careful about reclassifying kids. In fact, do not reclassify any child after Valentine's Day this year. I'll give you an example of what happened probably about 4 or 5 years ago. We had a high school where they were going to reclassify kids, but they just didn't quite have them moved over yet in the system. So when we ran test records, they were showing up as sophomores. So I think it was the last day of the window, or maybe it was 2 days before the end of the window, they reclassified them as juniors. Well, we didn't pick up on that. So the high school took a participation hit in ELA. in math, and in science. And overall, they did not make participation, and that did not go over well. So I'm just telling you, work with the counselors, make sure that they're well aware of this. And I'm serious. Do not either reclassify them by Valentine's Day, but don't reclassify them afterwards. SC codes. Okay, I have got to have these no later than the 22nd on the general. If you have a student that you want to code out on a medical, this is what I need. I need something on the doctor's letterhead or the medical facility's letterhead that specifically states that testing will be detrimental to the child's well-being, whether it be physical or emotional. If I don't have that, KSDE is not going to allow it. Most of these are pretty common. If you got a kid that's been suspended, I generally pick them up, but go ahead and send me an email and saying so-and-so's on long-term suspension. It makes my life easier if I don't have to go out there and get it. So generally what I use is an SC01. The truant kids will be an SC04. And this is one, and I want to clear this up on the truant kids. You've got to either ask for a truancy or a child in need of care petition. Send that information to Dr. Grimes over at Avondale. She will then file it with the DA's office. All we have to do is file it with the DA's office, and then I can code them out. The DA does not have to pick it up and decide to prosecute it. So just make sure you get that information to her, because I work with her office quite a little bit. And if the school tells me so-and-so is truant, and she says, well, I don't have anything on that, or it hasn't been sent up yet, there's nothing I can do about it. So you'll end up eating that one. Documentation. What's the whole, okay, read aloud is the whole text-to-speech thing. I just get so many emails and phone calls about this every year. And so I want to make sure that everyone is really clear about this, because I try to provide you with a district policy on read alouds, and I try to provide you with what's called an ISP, an individual student plan. So just to make sure that everybody's on the same page with this, I'll go over this one more time. First and foremost, a read aloud has got to be documented in a student plan of some kind. I don't care what it is, whether it's an IEP, 504, GI, SIT, ISP, something like that. It has got to be documented. And second of all, you have to be using it in the classroom on a regular basis. If you follow the guidelines within that read aloud policy, you should be good to go. Now then, I will say this much. At each school, we could conceivably have a handful of kids that slip through the cracks for whatever reason, and they truly need a read aloud. That is why the ISP document is there. If you will fill that out and document that need for a read aloud or text to speech, whatever you want to call it, keep that with your paperwork. Because if you get monitored, trust me, the monitor will want to see all that documentation. They'll want to see your training documentation, and they'll want to see your read aloud documentation. And if you don't have that available to them, you're going to get written up on it. Okay, and this is something I plagiarized from the state. So this kind of gives you a little bit of an overview as to what I've already gone over. Text to speech and science and directions for ELA and math and science. Yeah, that's available to everybody. And we don't have to worry about the PNP. So now then, when it comes to ELA and math, yeah, that's not available. They've got to have, this is where the documentation comes in. Now, then this last one, this is another one where we've had a lot of issues with this. This is for the reading passages within ELA. And the only way you're going to get that is it has to be explicitly stated in an IEP or a 504. No other plan is acceptable. It has got to be IEP or 504. And basically what it needs to say is that the student is legally blind or is so severely dyslexic that they can't properly decode text. Now, that's not, that it doesn't stop there. In the principal update that went out, I believe on the 11th, I put a blurb in there where not only do they have to have that documentation, but there's a link in there to a questionnaire that the state has and a flow chart. And if you can't answer all those questions correctly, then you're not getting the read aloud for the reading passages. And if you do, expect a call from the state, because this is really touchy and the state will be in our business on it. So I'm just letting you know. I'm not saying we won't have anybody, but in the past 5 years, I think we've had 3 kids and they were all in 1 year. So that's how rare it is to have that. Okay, we've kind of been over this. I don't know whether how many elementary still use whisper phones. I always thought they were a good idea, but you know, if a student wants to use a whisper phone so that they can read the test out loud, or even if they don't want to, that's fine. That is not an issue whatsoever. So you may have to segregate them out or separate them out, put them in the library or put them in a corner or something like that. But yeah, let them go ahead and do that. Okay, this is another problem we've run into. Need to make sure that these students are logged out of the Chromebooks when they get into the student portal. So when they're logged out, just down there on the taskbar of the Chromebook, you should see something that says, it's either going to say TPS apps or it'll just say apps. And when you click that and open it up, you should see something that says Kite Student Portal. Now, some of these helps that I put together, these tutorials, I sent all those to Angela Dick last week. So I believe she got them on maybe the 7th. And I think she's going to send those out to all the coaches. So, and if I get enough requests and I have the time, I'll put together tutorials for some of the other stuff too. But right now I can't do that. I don't know that we necessarily have anybody on iPads anymore, but they have fixed Kite so that we don't have to have any of the iPad support services or the Apple support services anymore. Been over the wireless peripherals and flash drives. It's a big no-no. Teachers, they need to be up walking around. This is proper proctoring is what makes testing a success. I will tell you, 1 year we were, I had a state monitor with me. I had the building principal with me. We walked into a room. during a test, the teacher had his back to the students with his feet up, and the first kid inside the door was back there on his iPhone. So obviously that did not go well. Just make sure that the teachers are fully aware that they need to be up. If you need to walk around and check on them, do that. I mean, that's all part of their job. So, like I said, proper proctoring is really the backbone of the success of this. We've been over the review end screen before. Just make sure that you look at it, or the teacher looks at it, and as building test coordinator, look at that test administration report. So like I said, that is your Bible. Do not let anybody start stage 2 until they have all the questions answered on stage 1. If a student doesn't see or a teacher doesn't see the review end, have them log right back in and take a look at it. Soft breaks. Yeah, you're going to have soft breaks on each stage of ELA and each stage of math. Okay, and I know we go over this all the time, but last year I had to add a little something. The other way we know that teachers aren't proctoring tests correctly is because a student will post a screenshot of the test out on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. And so we know exactly where it came from. And, you know, people used to send me pictures, and so we kind of got away from that, you know, where they're not doing it. So one actually sent me a movie instead of a picture, and that was their argument that, oh, it wasn't a picture, it was a movie. This is hard to do. I know I've seen a lot of cell phone anxiety, separation anxiety. So if you can get the student to turn the phone off and place it face down in front of them, that's probably the best way to handle it. Whatever you do, do not collect their phones. One of the high schools does have a good way of collecting them, but I don't want to get into that right now. The things I've seen before are, you know, here, put your cell phone in this box and you can get it when you're done. That doesn't work, because all it takes is one kid to say, hey, wait a minute, where's my iPhone 13 that never had an iPhone 13 in the first place, and starts screaming that you owe them $1,100. So yeah, let's just don't do that. Get them to shut it off and set it down in front of them. Okay, if a student raises their hand and says, hey, you know what, something here is not right, I can't come up with the right answer, just have them reread it. Tell them to select their best answer that they think will work. And if you look at it and you say, yeah, that is a little bit goofy, go ahead and send it to me, and I'll report that to CETE. Now, we will have, or we have had, some objections to some of the science questions. We have some students with really deep religious values. And so when the science test comes into questions about creationism, Big Bang, things like that, and they refuse to answer on those grounds, send it to me, okay? I know it doesn't do any good, but at least we're on record as saying that there's a problem there. So that's about the best we can do. Don't ever call a KSDE. Nothing good ever comes of it. The only time I'll have you call CETE is if we have a user with a account problem, That does pop up from time to time, but generally, if I can deactivate them and reactivate them, that clears their problem up. So never call KSD and don't call CET unless I tell you to, okay? Okay, as a building test coordinator, you'll need to keep a copy of your building's test schedule out on the Google Drive. There is no set form for this. So I try to give you as much leeway as doing it, whatever works best for you. There's gonna be a document out there that records when you watch this video, and the same thing with the teachers. Bob's working on that right now. It should be up and running, I hope, by Friday the 14th. And you'll need to have somebody on site that has access to WebKids, because if whoever the monitor is wants to see the documentation for the read aloud, somebody's going to have access to WebKids unless you have it in an ISP. So just make sure somebody there has WebKids access. You'll have to train all your staff, anybody that's going to be involved, teachers, paras, whatnot. There's a little blurb about an examiner's manual on pages 6 through 8. Once again, this agreement to abide by. You can do this manually if you want to, and just keep it in your folder. But like I said, we have an automated process that will record it out on a document in the Google Drive. And that way you can see who has and who hasn't completed their testing their testing responsibilities. Any test materials that you've got, I'll treat them as secure documents, keep them locked up. So your K1 writing booklets, make sure those stay locked up. I believe the EL department may actually hold on to those. So whoever your EL teacher is there will probably keep those locked up. The other thing for EL on those K1 writing booklets, they need to be uploaded to the state. So upload them all at once. My guess is the EL department will probably collect all of them or have them all sent down here to Clinton Heights, and they will send them all up in one giant lot. Okay, any issues you've got, make sure that you let us know about it. If we self-report, generally nothing bad happens. Where we run into problems is when a kid goes home and says, so-and-so told me that wasn't the right answer on the test, or told me to look at it again, or tapped me on the shoulder when they said the letter C. You know, don't do that, because the parents, what happens is they call some Board of Education member, who then calls Dr. Anderson, who then calls down here, and it never works out well. We haven't had a problem with this for about 3 years now. The last one wasn't good for the teacher. So I'm just telling you, be really, really careful. I don't know. You know your job because you have a good moral compass. I mean, that's why you're in there. Okay, we've been through this on the test administration extract. If you're doing really small classes and you know who you've got right then and there, you can actually go in and do it on the monitor screen in the educator portal. So if you go into test management, the tab that says test management, then go to test coordination. Then from the drop downs, select summative. You don't have to select the grade or the subject matter, and click search. You will get a list of every test in your building. You can click on that blue link. That link will pop open a window, and there will be 2 tabs. It defaults to the Students tab. What you want to do is click on the Monitor tab and go find that student. And every single one of those little circles on there is a question, and it should be darkened out if it's been answered. If not, have them go back in there and answer the questions. Oh, and reactivations will be done at the building level. You will also use that same screen, that monitor screen, for reactivations. The way to reactivate is you click in the little box next to the name, and when you do, at the bottom of the window, a button will pop up that says reactivate. You click that reactivate, and that will put that student back into in progress status. Now, supposedly they've changed this year so that unless the student actually ends a test, it should stay in progress. Now, whether that works that way or not, I don't know. I'm just passing on what they told me. Okay, you'll have a reactivation log. That'll be out there in your folder. This is the data that you need to put in here. This way, it should corroborate with the test administration report. If you're getting monitored, the monitor will want to see this. So it needs to be accurate and up to date. We've pretty much been through all this. The 90-minute window after original sign-on, I think they've taken that out. I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything that contradicts that, but in one of the webinars, they seem to indicate that that was no longer an issue. Okay, so if you have a kid who's having an off day, he's just kind of clicking through the test, have them stop. We don't want the child to, click A on the first 25 questions, say, hey, I'm done. By then it's really too late. Just stop them, and maybe they'll have a better day tomorrow or later on in the day. But otherwise, don't reactivate them if they get that far. Okay, so on your test security stuff, we've been through this. You need to test anybody that's going to have a hand in testing, and that should just be the teachers and the paras. No parent volunteers. They have to be an employee of the school system. And there again, they have to sign off. That's on. We have that done electronically. Hopefully that's up and running. I really hate to go back to the manual stuff, but this is essentially what one of them looks like. That's not the preferable one. This is the preferable one that you really should be using if you do it manually. Test schedules, I need to have those by March 11th. And the reason why is because the state wants to know what kind of load is going to be on the system. And I send it to our IT department to make sure that they have sufficient bandwidth at each of the buildings. I don't want tests bogging down, running slow, because this class over here is doing Scantron, and this class over here is doing whatever, streaming movies, something like that. And you're trying to test, and the system just bogs down. So get the test, the schedules done as quick as possible, because it does take a while to actually do it correctly. And I'll verify the dates, make sure you don't have any Saturdays and Sundays on there or any other days that we may have off. Because if you do, trust me, you'll hear from me. This is the data that needs to be in there. We don't really do small groups anymore. However, I understand that you do have them, but we don't have to really officially report them. So if you do have, like, say, 5 or 6 kids are over here because they just naturally take longer, yeah, go ahead and separate them out and make sure that that's shown up or that shows on the test schedule, because I don't want to walk a monitor by a room where kids are testing and they look at me and say, well, that room number wasn't on the schedule. What's going on there? So yeah, just make sure that they're all, you got everybody accounted for. Okay, so getting everything ready, make sure that your manipulatives are out there. You work that however you want to. Generally, you put them on a table somewhere and just let the students know that they're there. Same thing with the scratch paper, because we can't force them to use manipulatives. We can't force them to use scratch paper. We just make it available for them. Anything that may give them an advantage, like, say, multiplication tables or strategies. The 5-step strategy is one. All that has to be covered up. And by covered up, I don't mean putting a piece of cellophane or mylar over the top of it. It has to be something that they can't see through. So if you have any questions about that, just give me a call. Okay, this is all pretty much self-explanatory. You know, you don't do anything to strip data out of the test and then teach to it later. You don't take pictures or movies or anything like that. You don't grade scratch paper or try to create any kind of an answer key. Just stay out of it. The teacher, like I said, is just there to proctor it, make sure nobody's cheating, and check that review in screen. And from time to time, if a student asks a question, you know, like, what's this word? And yes, you can pronounce that, but don't let them sit there and every other word they're asking you, can you pronounce that for me? And if they say, what does it mean? Nah, don't answer that. Any scratch paper or anything else they may use, don't collect. I mean, collect it, throw it away. Don't just hold on to it unless they're stopping for the day in the middle of a certain stage. So let's say they go through the first 5 questions of stage 1, then they run out of time and they'll have to come back tomorrow. Have them put their name on the paper, collect it, lock it up, and let them have it again tomorrow to finish that up. When you're done, completely done with testing, go ahead and destroy the tickets. You can do that at the building level. And I don't care how you sanitize the manipulatives. You do that however it's prescribed by your building. We stay out of that. Have the teachers go over this. We got a bunch of goodies out there in your folder that has all these supporting documents. We have Bob's put together some 3 additional documents that the teachers can use. It's kind of an at a glance. It's the highlights of everything that we're doing right now. The fact sheet's going to be out there, along, like I said, along with some of the others. If you have any specific questions on them, let me know, and I'll try to help you out as much as I can, or make any kind of clarifications. Make sure everybody watches the training, because like I said, this will be recorded automatically. So we can see who, and so can you. You can see who has not completed training yet. And if you're getting monitored, yes, the monitor, that's on their checklist. That's one of the things they check, make sure that you have completed. We've kind of been over a lot of this. There again, the actual test scripts are in the examiner's manual. You can print those out off for them, and they read those to the students prior to the testing. We've been through the second point. Yeah, this is all pretty much self-explanatory too. You don't teach to the test. If you just follow your natural curriculum path, you'll be fine. Basically, you don't want to go in there and say, oh, this is what was on yesterday's test, so I want to go over this. Or this is what I've been seeing or hearing from other people. Yeah, don't do that. This has been a problem in the past, but here lately, they have actually been pretty good, at least for the classes that I have locked in and watched. Okay, we've been through all this. Yeah, none of this. Yeah, we've been through all this, so you can look at it. And you can go over this. I mean, like I said, a lot of this is based upon your moral compass, but it is good that you are kind of forced to stop and think about some of this. I've run into some interesting individuals over the years, not necessarily test coordinators, but teachers that I really have to question, where they're coming from. So you're kind of the cop in all this, the building cop. So just look these over and, just kind of think about them for a little bit. I mean, they're good points. Okay, monitor visits. Some of you will get monitored. Make no mistake about that. When we find out who you are, I will let the schools know. And I will walk the schools down prior to the test or prior to the visit. And I'll make sure your building's clean. The problem we run into is sometimes the teachers don't always get that message. And that's usually where we have problems. Now that I don't have a problem coming and walking down your school, whether you're being monitored or not. If you're new and you just want to feel good about this, sure, I'll come help you out. I don't have a problem with that because I do not want anybody to stress out about this. It's not worth it. And I will walk your school down. If you want me to step you through the entire process that you'll go through one-on-one, I don't have a problem doing that either. All you got to do is call or send me an email, and I would be more than happy to help you out. This is part of the checklist that the monitor uses. After the monitor is done with the visit, We generally talk for a while, and the monitor will tell me what they saw. If there's anything bad on there, I try to talk them out of that, try to get them to change it. The issue is anything bad on there, well, whether it's good or bad, this report goes directly to Dr. Anderson. And so if there's anything bad on there, then somebody's going to be getting a phone call. And so nobody wants that. But like I said, if you're getting monitored, I will be there, and you and I will lock that school down from top to bottom and make sure you have no violations. So from the global standpoint, you'll be good. From the classroom level, that's, like I said, that's always questionable. So there's that. Okay, questions? Maybe you got any questions? Just raise your hand. No questions? Oh, I must have done good then. Okay, well, that concludes it. Like I said, if you have any questions, give me a call and I will do what I can to help you out. Good luck.